Lucy Stevens was born into a life of privilege and high expectations as the only child of a real estate magnate. Her childhood was meticulously crafted, filled with private schools, equestrian lessons, and debutante balls. From an early age, she was taught the importance of projecting a flawless public image, a lesson that became central to her identity. However, beneath the polished exterior, Lucy's home life was far from ideal. Her father's demanding nature and her mother's relentless criticism left little room for emotional connection. Seeking solace, Lucy immersed herself in academics, excelling in her studies and developing a deep passion for art history. Her intelligence and ambition earned her a place at an Ivy League university, where she thrived academically but struggled to find her place socially. The pressure to uphold her family's reputation while forging her own identity led to turbulent relationships and an increasing sense of disconnect from her authentic self. Despite her poised demeanor, Lucy battled insecurities and an unrelenting need for validation. Her romantic relationships were often intense but fleeting, as she gravitated toward partners who provided excitement and attention rather than the stability she claimed to seek. It was during this time that she met Finn Calloway. Drawn to his quiet confidence and sincerity, Lucy saw in Finn the potential for the life she believed she should want. Convinced that he was the solution to her inner turmoil, she pushed forward, envisioning a future that aligned with societal expectations. Yet, as their wedding day approached, Lucy was consumed by doubt and a growing sense of restlessness. The carefully constructed facade she had maintained for years began to crumble, exposing the complex and conflicted woman underneath. In contrast, Finn Calloway's upbringing was worlds apart from Lucy's privileged life. The son of a small-town doctor and a high school English teacher, Finn grew up in a close-knit community that valued hard work, honesty, and loyalty over material wealth. From an early age, Finn exhibited a natural curiosity and aptitude for science. Encouraged by his supportive parents, he spent summers camping and visiting science museums, experiences that nurtured his passion for environmental conservation. Despite his academic achievements, Finn remained humble and well-liked by his peers. Known for his kindness, he tutored struggling classmates and volunteered at the local animal shelter without seeking recognition. These qualities of genuine integrity became defining aspects of his character. Finn's dedication earned him a scholarship to a prestigious university, where he pursued a degree in environmental science. During his studies, he grew close to his cousin Asher Calloway, who came from the wealthier side of the family. Despite their differences, the two formed a bond, with Finn often acting as a stabilizing influence on Asher's impulsive tendencies. After graduation, Finn's passion for conservation led him to join a non-profit organization focused on protecting endangered species. His work took him to remote parts of the world, exposing him to both the beauty of nature and the devastating impact of human activity. These experiences reinforced his commitment to making a difference. At a fundraising event for his organization, Finn met Lucy Stevens. Her beauty and intelligence captivated him, but it was her underlying vulnerability that truly drew him in. Finn saw in Lucy someone who needed the love and stability he knew he could provide. As their relationship blossomed, Finn believed he had found his ideal partner, someone who shared his values and could challenge him intellectually. Envisioning a future filled with shared adventures and purpose, he proposed, confident they could build a life together. Unbeknownst to Finn, the trust he valued so deeply was on the brink of being tested, threatening not only their relationship, but also his own sense of identity. Meanwhile, Asher Calloway embraced his role as the family's black sheep. Born into the wealthier branch of the Calloway family, Asher grew up with every material advantage but lacked emotional stability. His father, a high-powered corporate lawyer, was often absent, while his mother immersed herself in social events and prescription drugs. Left to his own devices, Asher developed a rebellious streak, using his charm and good looks to manipulate those around him and escape the consequences of increasingly risky behavior. Despite his troubled home life, Asher was intelligent and charismatic, excelling academically when he chose to apply himself. However, he was more often found leading his peers into mischief. It was during one of these escapades that he first bonded with his cousin Finn, who had come to visit during a summer break. This marked the beginning of a complicated relationship that would intertwine their lives in unexpected ways. Finn's steady presence and genuine care left a lasting impact on Asher. For the first time, Asher felt seen and valued for who he truly was, not for his family name or his ability to charm. This bond with Finn became a rare anchor in Asher's turbulent life, providing stability amidst the chaos. As they grew older, however, their paths diverged significantly. While Finn pursued his passion for environmental science, Asher floundered through various college majors, never quite discovering his purpose. Eventually, he landed a position at a tech startup, choosing the job more for the lifestyle it afforded than any genuine interest in the work. Asher's personal life mirrored his professional uncertainty. A series of failed relationships left him jaded about love, yet he continued to seek validation through fleeting romances. Known for his charisma, he developed a reputation as a charming rogue, leaving a trail of heartbreak behind him. When Finn introduced Asher to Lucy, something shifted. Lucy's sharp wit and complexity intrigued Asher, and her understanding of the pressures tied to a prominent family resonated with him. What began as harmless flirtation quickly evolved into a dangerous attraction. Despite knowing the consequences, Asher found himself unable to resist. As the wedding day approached, he wrestled with a growing internal conflict, his loyalty to Finn clashing with his feelings for Lucy. This turmoil triggered erratic behavior, setting the stage for the tragic events that would follow. Finn's proposal to Lucy had been a romantic moment on a moonlit beach in Costa Rica during a conservation trip. He presented her with an ethically sourced diamond ring, symbolizing both his love and his values. Swept up in the romance and the promise of stability, Lucy accepted without hesitation. Their engagement quickly became the talk of their social circles. The Stevens family was pleased their daughter had chosen a respectable partner, even if Finn's commitment to non-profit work seemed quaint to them. The Calloways, in turn, welcomed Lucy with open arms, charmed by her sophistication and apparent devotion to Finn. However, as wedding preparations began, cracks in their relationship started to show. Lucy, influenced by her mother and years of societal expectations, envisioned a grand, extravagant affair. Finn, true to his modest upbringing and environmental principles, preferred a smaller, more intimate ceremony. The compromises they made often felt one-sided, with Finn reluctantly agreeing to a larger guest list and more opulent venue to fulfill Lucy's wishes. He justified these concessions as acts of love, wanting Lucy to have her dream day. Lucy, however, began to interpret Finn's reluctance as a lack of enthusiasm for their union, fostering resentment. As the wedding date drew closer, the stress of planning took its toll. Lucy became irritable, often snapping at Finn over minor details, while Finn retreated into his work, leaving much of the decision-making to her. During this tumultuous time, Asher became increasingly present in their lives. His humor and charm offered relief from the mounting tension, making him a confidant for both Finn and Lucy. Finn, grateful for Asher's support, failed to notice the subtle, lingering glances between Asher and Lucy, or the way their interactions grew increasingly intimate. Lucy, on the other hand, began looking forward to Asher's visits. She found excitement in his unpredictable presence, telling herself her growing attraction was simply pre-wedding nerves. As the wedding day approached, the strain between Finn and Lucy reached its breaking point. A heated argument over seating arrangements left Lucy in tears and Finn storming out. That evening, Asher arrived with a bottle of champagne and a listening ear. As Lucy poured out her fears and doubts, the line between comfort and desire blurred. In a moment of weakness, they shared a kiss, an act that would ignite a series of devastating events. The next morning, consumed by guilt but unable to ignore her feelings, Lucy rationalized her actions. She convinced herself that one last taste of excitement wouldn't harm Finn, and resolved to carry on as though nothing had happened. What Lucy didn't realize was that her carefully controlled world was on the brink of collapse, with consequences that would alter all their lives forever. The affair between Lucy Stevens and Asher Calloway ignited like a spark in dry tinder, rapidly consuming reason and restraint. What began with stolen glances and fleeting touches quickly escalated into secret meetings and forbidden passion. Their first rendezvous took place under the pretense of wedding preparations. Lucy had asked Asher to help her choose a surprise gift for Finn, though her true intentions were far from innocent. They met at a discreet upscale hotel bar, a place where privacy was assured and no one asked questions. Sitting close, heads bent over a catalogue of watches, the tension between them was undeniable. When Asher's hand brushed against hers, the charade ended. Without a word, they retreated to a room Asher had reserved, just in case. Later that night, lying next to an unsuspecting Finn, Lucy convinced herself it was a one-time lapse in judgment, but the allure of the forbidden proved irresistible. Asher and Lucy devised a system of coded messages and fabricated alibis. A text about flowers meant a meeting at their hotel. A call about suit fittings signaled a visit to Asher's apartment. They stole moments whenever possible. A hurried encounter in Lucy's office, a passionate embrace in Asher's car, parked in a secluded spot. The constant risk of discovery only heightened the thrill. There were close calls that left them both exhilarated and terrified. Once, Finn nearly stumbled upon them at a family dinner after they sneaked away to a coat closet for a heated kiss. On another occasion, a friend of Lucy's spotted them holding hands at a cafe across town, forcing them to concoct an elaborate lie about planning a surprise party for Finn. As the wedding day approached, their affair intensified. Lucy began comparing Finn to Asher, always finding her fiancé lacking. Asher was adventurous where Finn was steady, electrifying where Finn was predictable. Lucy started questioning everything about her relationship and the future she had meticulously planned. Asher, too, found himself caught off guard. What had begun as a casual conquest, a thrill to be chased, had evolved into something far deeper. He started envisioning a future with Lucy, imagining a life where they could be together openly. That this dream would shatter his cousin's happiness was a reality he chose to ignore. Yet guilt haunted them both in quieter moments. They were acutely aware of the pain their actions would cause if exposed, the lives they would upend. But in the heat of their encounters, all concerns were eclipsed by desire. Over time, the line between fantasy and reality blurred. They made promises they couldn't keep, spoke of a love doomed from the start, all while the countdown to Lucy and Finn's wedding loomed like an inevitable reckoning. Finn Calloway had always trusted his intuition, a skill honed through years of navigating complex negotiations and fragile ecosystems in his conservation work. But when it came to the betrayal unfolding around him, Finn remained oblivious, his perceptive instincts dulled by trust. The first signs of trouble were subtle, easy to dismiss. Lucy's sudden preoccupation with her phone, the abrupt way she ended calls when Finn walked into the room, her bouts of irritability blamed on wedding stress, all seemed plausible at first. Even the faint scent of unfamiliar cologne, which Lucy attributed to a new co-worker at the gallery, raised only fleeting questions. It was Ash's behavior that finally unsettled Finn. Normally eager to immerse himself in their lives, Asher began avoiding family events, offering flimsy excuses. When he did attend, his usual charm was replaced by an anxious energy. Finn noticed the guilty glances Asher exchanged with Lucy, but he struggled to make sense of them. Despite his growing unease, Finn dismissed his doubts as paranoia, trying to focus on his work and the approaching wedding. Yet the nagging feeling that something was wrong only grew stronger, refusing to be ignored. Finn began to observe more closely, noticing how Lucy and Asher seemed to communicate silently, sharing private jokes that excluded him. Unable to face his suspicions directly, he started an amateur investigation. He found himself doing things he never thought he would. Checking Lucy's phone when she was in the shower, combing through credit card statements for unexplained charges, even driving by Ash's apartment at odd hours to see if Lucy's car was parked outside. With each new piece of evidence, Finn felt a sharp, painful twist in his gut. Receipts for 2 glasses of champagne at a hotel bar on a night Lucy had claimed to be working late. A text from Asher saying, "Missing you," quickly deleted from Lucy's phone, and a lipstick smudge on Asher's collar at a family dinner that matched Lucy's lipstick. As the wedding day loomed, Finn was caught in a spiral of doubt and denial. He desperately wanted to believe in Lucy's love, to trust in the future they had planned together, but the mounting evidence was too much to ignore, and the weight of his growing suspicion threatened to crush him. This internal conflict started to show in his behavior. He became distant and distracted, often losing track of conversations. His once passionate work now seemed meaningless in the face of his personal turmoil. Friends and family noticed his change, attributing it to pre-wedding jitters, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. 2 weeks before the wedding, Finn reached his breaking point. He decided to confront Lucy, hoping for an innocent explanation. In their shared apartment, while Lucy was busy with last-minute wedding preparations, Finn initiated a serious conversation. He questioned her directly about her relationship with Asher, his voice barely containing his emotional turmoil. Lucy responded with practiced composure, feigning innocence and brushing aside his concerns. However, Finn noticed the discomfort in her body language as he laid out the evidence: secretive phone calls, unexplained absences, and nervous glances. Despite Lucy's denials, Finn pressed on, recounting specific incidents that had aroused his suspicions. Lucy's responses became more defensive, insisting that Finn was overreacting due to wedding stress. She emphasized her love for him and questioned why she would risk their relationship. As the confrontation heated up, Lucy suggested calling Asher to verify her version of events. Finn watched as Lucy nervously dialed Asher's number and put the call on speaker. Asher's smooth voice filled the room, offering alibis for every incident Finn had mentioned. Their coordinated effort to deny his accusations left Finn feeling emotionally drained and defeated. The seamless way they presented a united front only deepened his fears. By the end of the conversation, Lucy attempted to soothe the tension, attributing Finn's concerns to wedding-related stress. She urged him to focus on their upcoming nuptials. Finn, unable to fully express his emotions, merely nodded in response. But as he looked into Lucy's eyes, he realized that everything had changed. The trust that had once been the foundation of their relationship had been shattered, and with it, the future he had envisioned began to crumble. The morning of the wedding arrived bright and clear, a picture-perfect day for a celebration of love. Yet inside the luxurious bridal suite at Rosewood Hills Estate, the atmosphere was anything but joyous. Lucy sat at the vanity, surrounded by her bridesmaids as they attended to her hair and makeup. Her reflection showed a pale, drawn face, despite the expertly applied cosmetics. The weight of her deception pressed heavily on her chest, making it hard to breathe in her intricately beaded gown. Meanwhile, in a smaller room designated for the groom's party, Finn stood motionless as his best man adjusted his bow tie. His face was calm, a mask of composure that concealed the inner turmoil he felt. The decision he had made in the dark hours of the morning felt both terrifying and inevitable. Asher arrived late, slipping into the room with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Finn caught sight of his cousin in the mirror, noting the nervous energy radiating from him. Their eyes met briefly, but Asher quickly looked away, unable to hold Finn's steady gaze. As the hours passed and the ceremony drew nearer, the tension in both rooms mounted. Lucy fought back tears, smearing her mascara, while Finn's hands trembled as he placed his grandmother's watch, an heirloom he had once imagined, passing down to his and Lucy's future child, on his wrist. Outside, blissfully unaware, the guests began arriving, their excited chatter and laughter filling the air. The string quartet began to play, but the sense of impending doom lingered. The soft melodies contrasted sharply with the emotional turmoil unfolding behind closed doors. As the wedding planner's voice echoed through the door, signaling that it was time to take their places, three hearts raced, gripped by a mix of dread and anticipation. The moment of truth had finally arrived. The Rosewood Hills Grand Ballroom had been transformed into a floral paradise, with garlands of white roses and delicate baby's breath decorating every surface, their sweet fragrance filling the air. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow over the gathered guests. As the music swelled, all eyes turned toward the back of the room. Finn stood at the altar, his expression unreadable as he watched the bridal party walk down the aisle. Asher, standing beside him as the best man, shifted uneasily, his eyes flicking between Finn and the entrance. Then the bridal march began, and Lucy appeared in the doorway. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. She was a vision in white, her gown a work of art, made of lace and silk that seemed to float around her as she moved. But those closest to her could detect the strain in her smile, the subtle tremor in her hands as she gripped her bouquet. As she glided down the aisle, on her father's arm, her gaze locked with Finn's. In that moment, an unspoken communication passed between them. Finn saw the fear and guilt in Lucy's eyes, while she recognized a chilling coldness in his that made her blood run cold. The ceremony began, the officiant's words flowing over the couple without really registering. Lucy's responses were automatic, her voice barely a whisper, while Finn's were clear and strong, but devoid of the warmth and affection one might expect at such an occasion. As they reached the exchange of vows, a palpable tension filled the room. Guests shifted in their seats, sensing the undercurrent of discomfort between the couple. Asher stood rigid, his face a shade paler than usual, as if sensing disaster was imminent. When the officiant finally said, "You may now recite your vows to Lucy," Finn took a deep breath, scanning the crowd before his gaze settled back on Lucy. His voice rang out clearly and steadily, but carried a weight that filled the room. "Lucy, I stand here today not to recite vows of love and fidelity, but to speak a truth that can no longer be ignored." A ripple of confusion swept through the guests. Lucy's eyes widened in horror as she realized what was about to happen. "For weeks, I've suspected that the woman I thought I knew, the woman I was prepared to spend my life with, has been living a lie," Finn continued, his voice growing stronger, fueled by the pain and anger he had been harboring. "And not just any lie, but one that strikes at the very heart of trust and family." Murmurs of disbelief filled the room as Finn's gaze shifted to Asher, who had gone deathly pale. "Lucy, you've been having an affair with my cousin, the man I asked to stand beside me as my best man." The silence that followed was deafening. Lucy stood frozen, her bouquet slipping from her fingers to fall softly to the floor. Asher stepped back, trying to distance himself from Finn's accusations. "I have proof," Finn said, his voice wavering slightly. "Emails, text messages, hotel receipts. While we were planning our future, you two were sneaking around, betraying not just me, but everyone here who came to celebrate our love." Chaos erupted. Lucy's mother let out a wail of distress, while her father stood, his face purple with fury. Finn's parents remained silent, their eyes flicking between their son and their nephew. Amidst the turmoil, Lucy finally found her voice. She pleaded with Finn, trying to explain herself, insisting that his understanding of the situation was all wrong. Finn had reached his breaking point and was no longer willing to listen to Lucy's words. Turning to the stunned guests, he apologized for the false pretenses under which they had gathered, then declared the wedding cancelled. His words echoed through the stillness of the venue. With that, he stepped down from the altar and began his solitary walk back down the aisle. As Finn passed Asher, he paused briefly, and in a voice heavy with hurt and betrayal, he expressed his profound disappointment, highlighting the brotherly bond he once believed they shared. The guests watched in stunned silence as Finn made his way toward the exit. Before he could reach the doors, a commotion near the altar shifted everyone's attention. Eyes turned back to where Lucy and Asher stood as a new drama unfolded. Amid the shocked murmurs and confused exclamations, Asher's hand moved to the inside of his jacket. Time seemed to slow as he drew out a small, gleaming handgun. Lucy, the first to notice the danger, cried out Asher's name in alarm, her mascara-streaked face twisted in fear. Her scream cut through the chaos, drawing everyone's gaze to Asher, now holding the gun with a visibly shaking hand. Finn, alerted by Lucy's cry, turned back in disbelief at the sight of his armed cousin. Panic immediately spread through the venue as guests scrambled for cover, some ducking behind chairs while others rushed for the exits. The string quartet abandoned their instruments, which clattered to the floor as the musicians fled. Amid the chaos, Finn stayed surprisingly calm, addressing Asher in a steady voice. He attempted to reason with his cousin, urging him to reconsider and lower the weapon. But Asher seemed beyond reason, his eyes wild as he ranted about ruined plans and lost happiness. Lucy, Her wedding gown, now disheveled, cautiously approached Asher. Her voice trembled as she pleaded with him, trying to convince him that violence wasn't the solution. For a brief moment, it seemed her words might reach him, but Asher's resolve quickly hardened again. Tension peaked as he declared there was no turning back. In a blur of motion, he tightened his grip on the trigger. Lucy lunged toward him in an attempt to disarm him, while Finn sprinted toward them to protect her. Then came the deafening sound of a gunshot, freezing everyone in shock and uncertainty about who had been hit. The gunshot echoed, and the room fell into a brief, chilling silence. Then, as if snapping back to reality, chaos erupted again. Lucy collapsed to the floor, her white gown staining with a spreading pool of crimson. Finn rushed to her side, all anger forgotten in the face of this horrific turn of events. He cradled her in his arms, overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, Asher stood frozen in shock, the weapons slipping from his grasp and clattering to the floor. His face was one of stunned disbelief, unable to comprehend the consequences of his actions. Finn desperately tried to staunch the flow of blood from Lucy's chest, his voice cracking as he pleaded for her to stay conscious. His earlier feelings of betrayal were replaced by a frantic desire to save her life. Lucy, struggling to stay focused, opened her eyes with great effort, her voice barely a whisper as she tried to apologize. A cough interrupted her, bringing a trickle of blood to her lips. Her condition became painfully clear as she fought to express her regret, leaving the air thick with unspoken words and uncertainty. The scene descended into pandemonium. Guests with medical training rushed forward to help, while others called emergency services. Asher remained motionless, unresisting, as Finn's father and another guest restrained him. The wait for the ambulance felt interminable. Finn held Lucy, whispering words of encouragement and forgiveness, trying to keep her conscious. But with each passing minute, her responses weakened, her breathing grew labored. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. Despite their best efforts, Lucy Stevens was pronounced dead at the scene, her life tragically cut short in the very place where she was supposed to begin a new chapter. As the police arrived and took control of the situation, the full weight of the tragedy settled over Rosewood Hills. What should have been a day of celebration turned into a nightmare that would haunt everyone present for years to come. In the months that followed the tragic events, the lives of all involved were forever changed. Asher Calloway was charged with second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, his bright future destroyed by a moment of jealous rage. Finn Calloway, gripped by grief and guilt, left his job in conservation and sought solace in the remote wilderness he had once worked to protect.